Hello, I'm Nora, and welcome back to Novels with Nora. Today I am very excited because this is a video that I have been wanting to make since I started my channel, since I even thought about starting my channel, so I am very excited for this. And this, as I'm sure you can tell by the title, is my Calico Critter reading vlog. Now, this is combining two of my favorite things, Calico Critters and reading. And if you're not familiar with Calico Critters, I'll get into all of that. But this is so exciting for me because Calico Critters are like some of my favorite little trinkets to collect. You see, I have quite a few of them on my shelves here, and I love them so much. So let's just get into what is a Calico Critter. These are Calico Critters. They are just these little critters that are like flocked, so they have like a little bit of fuzz to them, and they all have like fun little outfits, and they come in families. So like here you see I have my giraffe family. They all come with a mom, a dad, and then two kids. So here I have the giraffe family, and then over here you see I have the little midnight cat family, and then I also have two other families that you don't typically see because they're on a shelf over there. So I have a little cat, a different cat family, and the star of today's video, I have the sheep family, which are right here. So again, there's a mom, a dad, and then two kids. So here are the mom and the dad. We have the mom with her pretty little floral dress and her little headband, and then the dad. So they're really just like, they're meant to be like children's toys, but like they're so incredibly detailed and also kind of expensive for a child's toy. So personally, I wouldn't give these to a kid because they'd like slobber all up on them, but I love to collect them because they're just so fun. And like, look at them. Aren't they just so cutie? So that's the mom and the dad. And then similar to the mom and the dad, there's the daughter and the son who have very similar outfits, but like look how, especially her outfit, look how detailed it is with like the little pom-poms. Ooh, influencer hands, the little pom-poms, and then her little headband. Like this, tell me this isn't the cutest thing you've ever seen. So I love to collect Calico Critters. I have so many of them. And when you get the families, the box comes with a little description of each of the family members, and they're always like quite detailed and like really give you like a good look at their personalities. And so I remember getting the sheep family specifically because they're the most recent family that I got, and I was like, I want to do a reading vlog with this. This has been an idea I had again since I started my channel, where it's like I knew I wanted to do like a Calico Critter reading vlog. I just wasn't sure how I wanted to do it. And then I got this sheep family and was like, oh my god, this whole description of each of the family members could lead to me choosing a book for each family member. So that's what I'll be doing today. So I have some books in mind for each family member, but I only have one fully picked out, and that is for the mother. So let's just read her little description, and then I'll tell you how I went about my deciding of what I was going to read. So the mother is Barbara. She is the real expert on fruit trees of every kind. Her busiest times are late fall and early spring, when she's in the orchard all day, pruning and reshaping all the trees and checking for any problems. When the trees start blooming in the spring, she loves to take long walks along the orchard path every evening. So it's just like fun little descriptions like that I'm like, it just really adds to like the intrigue of these little critters because they're just so fun and so detailed. Like they even have little tails sticking out the back of their outfits. Like they're just so fun and I love them so much. So reading that description, I was thinking, okay, so clearly we have a lot to work with here, but before we fully get into things, I want to read all of the descriptions and then also show you something else that this box came with, which was this picture of the entire family in their orchard. Look how cutie. Like this is why I love these so much, because clearly like so much thought went into like making these little critters. And again, which is why it's confusing that they're like a child's toy, because a child's not going to appreciate this the way I'm appreciating it, you know? But like, look at them. So when I saw this, I knew that this is a very like floral family, especially like looking at their outfits. You know, like we've got like a little floral pattern on her dress and on her dress. So I knew that I wanted to read books that had to do with florals. But then let's read the rest of the descriptions. Next we have the father. Danny is in charge of the orchards in Calico Village, keeping the grass short and the place tidy. He is very proud of his calico red apples and peachy perfect peaches. After the day's work is done, he likes to relax on the couch with a glass of freshly squeezed fruit juice. So that's the father. Next we have the sister. Lona is very serious and a little shy, but she's not shy around her baby brother and sisters. She takes very good care of them. She reads them lots of picture books, draws pictures for them, and helps them when it's nap time. And finally we have the brother. Winton is a gentle, calm, laid-back type. He knows a lot and does very well at school. He's great at ballet, but he's shy, so he usually only lets Lona see him dancing. He wants to be a ballet dancer when he grows up, so he practices as hard as he can. And I will say, Winton gave me the hardest time finding a book recommendation for him. But this is what I had to work with when choosing these books. So I have already actually started reading the book that I chose for the mother. And that book is none other than Late Bloomer by Maisie Eddings. I mean, even just like looking at like the cover, like tell me that's not right, exactly. Like, exactly. So the way I went about choosing the books was that I wanted to find something that fit their descriptions, obviously, but I also didn't want to just like go out and pick random books that I thought fit them, but like that weren't necessarily things I was interested in. So like I said, Winton put up the biggest struggle in me finding a book, because really the only thing we have for him is like he likes to dance and likes to do ballet, but all of the books I could find about like male ballet dancers were either nonfiction or like romances. And like I would have no problem with that, but all of the ones I could find that actually like featured male ballet dancers, the whole plot was like homophobia. And I didn't really want to read that. So I ended up having a few more ideas of what we can read for him, but we'll get to him later. We're probably going to go in order of how they're listed on here. So mother, father, sister, brother. So starting with the mother, I have actually started Late Bloomer, and the reason I picked this is because this book follows our main character Opal as she is kind of struggling in life. She wants to be an artist, but right now she's like working at an ice cream shop. She's just like not fully living the way she wants to because she's like a huge people pleaser. So she'll do anything she can to just make the people around her happy and not necessarily do anything for herself. But then she ends up winning the lottery and deciding that this is going to be her fresh start, and she ends up buying this flower farm that she finds on Facebook and puts like all of her money that she won from the lottery and some of her savings into buying this flower farm so that she can start her own like art studio here, because she went to school to be an artist. She is an artist, and her dream is to like, she paints textiles. So really her big thing is like she paints shoes and like makes them like very artisanal. And so she goes to this flower farm thinking that this is going to be like her fresh start. She'll start her studio here. But when she gets to the flower farm, she meets Pepper, whose grandma actually owned the farm, and Pepper lives there. This is Pepper's whole life. And so they have to like come to an agreement of how they're going to make this work, because Opal owns the farm, but this is Pepper's whole life. And Pepper is such an amazing character. She is autistic, and so she very much struggles with reading like social cues and understanding her own feelings. And so I'm already like halfway through this one and I'm really having a great time seeing Opal help her like work through her like what she's feeling and like just be like very blunt with her and being like, is this what you're feeling? Because this is what I'm feeling. It's very nice. It feels very Hallmarky because they're at this flower farm, but the flower farm is like failing. And Pepper's like, I need to like make this work because this is what my grandma wanted. And the grandma has unfortunately passed away. So they end up entering this competition where it's like a flower competition where you make like an art installation with the flowers, so like perfect for the two of them. And they need to win this in order to save the farm. So like very Hallmark in that way, but also it is a little bit spicy. But this to me felt perfect for the mother because it talks about like Pepper, her whole thing is that she works at this flower farm and she like loves these flowers. And obviously that's not the same thing as an orchard, but it feels very similar and just very like floral. Pepper really loves these flowers. Like that's her life's mission, is to make these flowers as beautiful as she can. And that just feels very fitting for our mother character here. So this is what I'm reading for her, and I'm really enjoying it so far, having a great time. I'll talk to you more about this later. But for now, that's what I have so far. And then as I finish this, I'll move into reading for the father and then the sister and then the brother. And we will just read a book for each of the critters. And I'm honestly really looking forward to this, especially because I, again, just love Calico Critters so much, and so getting to incorporate them into my content is super exciting. So in this vlog, I will be reading a book for each of the family members, giving you my thoughts on the book, and then also saying if I think it was a good pick for that family member. Because again, I'm not going out and just finding books that I'm like, yeah, that fits, if it's not something that I'm already interested in reading. So I will be pulling books from my shelves that I'm like, oh yeah, I can see a connection there, as well as some library books of things that I'm just already interested in reading. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, stick around, subscribe, like the video. Let me know if I should do more of these, because I have so many other Calico Critters that I can do this with, and like other little trinkets that I can do this with as well. So let me know if this is something that you're liking so far, and then stick around for the rest of the video to see what I end up reading for the rest of the family members. Now that all of our exposition is out of the way, we can get into my thoughts so far on Late Bloomer. So like I said, I'm on page 215, which is a little over halfway through, and I'm absolutely loving this. So Opal is very much like, I don't want to say pushover because that has like a very negative connotation, but she's let other people dictate her life. She was in this really awful relationship and she kind of like rearranged her life for him because she's just very much a people pleaser. She just wants to do everything to make other people happy. And because she's like very ADHD and like says so in the book, she very much like forgets about things if they're not like directly in front of her, and she just like kind of bops from idea to idea all the time. And she just feels lonely a lot of the time because it's hard for her to keep people in her life. So she goes out of her way to do everything for them and then gets nothing in return, so which leads to her feelings of loneliness. And then Pepper is such an amazing character because she's so singularly focused on this farm and about like protecting her grandma Lou's legacy with the farm. But then also when Opal comes into her life, she's like, I'm having these feelings, I don't know what's happening here, like I don't really like this, but like she doesn't like it because she's like never really experienced it before. But like they work through it so well, and they make like such a great pair because Pepper with her like singular focus on the farm and like her ability to like be for the flowers, and then Opal's more creative expression really like makes them a perfect pair to like enter this competition. And I'm having a great time. Like I said, it feels very Hallmarky, where it's like, oh, this competition, like we have to enter, it's gonna save the farm. But I'm really enjoying it because it's like the characters are a lot deeper than they would be in a Hallmark movie, and also sapphic, you know. But I'm having a really great time with this. I'm loving the writing. It's very funny. Like there's been parts where I'm like laughing out loud with it. I'm really having a very great time. There's a lot of different characters like in their friend group, and Opal has two sisters that are really fun characters, and like everything in here is just like so fun, but also has like a bit of like depth to it, which I really enjoy because that's something that I don't love with Hallmark movies. I watch them all the time with my mom, but something that I don't love is that they feel very surface level a lot of the time, and really some of the only backstory that they give their characters is like they want to advance in their career, or like their parent died. Where here we have a lot of like Opal has kind of put everything into owning this farm, and then Pepper has put everything into keeping the farm going, so they kind of are like relying on each other to like make this work, while also kind of falling for each other. And at this point they've acknowledged that they kind of have feelings for each other, but like there's like this weird tension between them, but they don't really get along personality wise because Pepper is so like stalwart, I guess, in her ways, and Opal is very like free flowing and like whimsical, so like their personalities don't fully mesh, but like, you know. And so they've decided, I think the exact phrasing Opal used was that they need to bang it out to like release some of the tension. So now they're just having like no strings attached sex, which is clearly not going to work for them, and it's already not working for them because we had like our first sex scene. Also, this book is dual perspective, so we get Pepper and Opal's perspective, and getting the sex scenes from both of their perspectives, like it went back and forth through the chapters, was so wonderful because Opal is more experienced than Pepper. Pepper had never done anything, especially with a girl before, or with anyone really, and so getting both of their perspectives on like how they wanted to like please the other, but then also like wanted to get what they needed, and like it was honestly like really good. I don't love sex scenes in books unless they're like furthering the plot, and here it helped because then like Opal made Pepper like ask for what she wanted and like then take what she wanted, and then Pepper made Opal like realize that like she can also advocate for herself and ask for what she wants. So it is furthering the plot and like growing our characters, and I'm really enjoying that. And like the dual perspective is really wonderful, and it's something that I want in like all of my romances. I do not like a lot of times when a romance is single perspective, because I find that it makes the character whose perspective we don't get to be very like emotionally vulnerable and just like very open, because we're not getting their perspective and like their internal monologue. The authors tend to make them just like very expressive, which is fine, but it doesn't feel super accurate. Where here we're having them both be like kind of closed off to each other, and then like in their own internal monologue being like, oh my god, like I'm having a crush on her like so bad. And so I'm really enjoying that and seeing kind of like how they are within themselves and how they interact with each other, but then how the other perceives them. I'm really, really having a very good time with this. And also I think it is a perfect choice so far, at least for our mother character, because it's the flower farm, and we've gotten scenes of them like going out and like picking the flowers and like having to make sure that they like stay fresh and make sure that like everything is going good with the flowers, and like tilling the soil and then like snipping them, making sure that they like don't snip too far so that they can grow back the next year. And that feels very much like our mother character here. And also I just think that her dress with like the pink flowers just matches so perfectly with the cover. Also, her little headband is like serving so hard. This is one I have wanted this family for a very long time, so when I finally was able to get them, I was jumping for joy. I just think that they're so intricate and their outfits are so fun. I love them so much. So I am going to just keep reading. Today is like perfect weather for reading outside, so I do plan on doing that, especially because, I mean, what better family to read outside with than our little farmers, you know? So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm really just having a very good time with reading. And then also as I'm reading, being like, oh yeah, she would love this, she being her. Right now, I do think it's kind of silly the way I'm doing this, because I'm reading a sapphic book for the mother character, and I do think I will be reading a gay book for the father character. But I also like, that's what I'm trying to do here, is also read queer stories while having such a nuclear family of Calico Critters who are fictional little characters. But I'm I'm having a very good time. This is something that's like very exciting for me, so I'm really excited to be making this video. So I have a little bit of work I need to do before I can like fully dive back into here, but I'm gonna do that, and then I think we're gonna go outside and read. Okay, I finished my assignment, so I'm out here. I'm gonna read. I made myself a little lunch, a little turkey wrap with some Cheez-Its, and I have my book, so I'm just gonna sit here. It's truly perfect weather for this. There's a nice breeze, the birds are chirping, I'm sure you can hear them, and I'm just gonna sit here, eat my lunch, and read. Oh my god, a scene stealer. Who is she? Anyway, in all seriousness, I'm back in from outside. Sorry, that was really funny. I'm back in from outside. I was out there for about 2 hours, and I finished Late Bloomer, and oh my god, this was so good. I have not read anything from Maisie Eddings before. This is her 5th book, and it was so good. I really had a very good time with this. I was like tearing up towards the end and like celebrating of their like happy ending. Like, it was so cutesy. So I already told you what it was about, and it pretty much just like followed that same like trajectory, but it was just so wonderful because it's like they're both so in their own heads and like dealing with their own issues, honestly, but seeing them learn to communicate with each other and like learn to open up and then like come to terms with like, no, this is who I am and I should just be like proud of that, and if this person isn't willing to accept me for that, then they're not worthy of being in my life. But like they do accept each other, and they're so cutie, and it was so wonderful seeing how the flower farm like blooms. It was so wonderful, and I loved it so much. And the end of the book actually had these, first of all, there was an epilogue that I absolutely loved. That was so cutie. I love an epilogue in a romance book, I really do. But then there was this chapter, Anatomy of a Title, where the author talked about how hard it was to come up with the title, and there was just like this giant like 2-page list of all of the title options that she had gone through before landing on Late Bloomer, and that was really fun. And then after that, there was like the symbolic meaning of flowers at the end, and I love that so much. I'm really fascinated by like flower language and like the language of flowers, and how especially in Victorian times flowers were used to like say things that you couldn't say out loud, and like it just fits so wonderfully. I think that this book was a perfect selection for our mother sheep because her singular focus is the like orchard and everything to do with like the plants, and that is very much Pepper in this book because she has autism. Like, her full focus is truly on this flower farm, and like she's so like zoned in on it that it's like all she thinks about, all she cares about, and like every decision she makes is like, okay, well, how is this going to affect the farm, and like how is what's happening on the farm going to like continue on and like continue to thrive. And so I feel like this was like a really great pairing because Pepper and Barbara here I feel like really are quite similar. And obviously this is like a flower farm, not like a fruit tree orchard, but it still feels very similar. And again, the dress with the pink flowers and the cover, it's beautiful. So I do think that this was like the perfect thing to read for her. And also just like look how cute she is. I love her so much. She's just so cute. I love her so much. So I do think this was a great way to start. I think this is between like a 4 and a 5 star. I'm gonna have to like ponder it for a little bit. Usually I like to let books marinate for a little. If sometimes I finish it and I know like, okay, that was a 3 star. I finished it, I'm like 5 star. This, I'm leaning towards a 4.5, but it also might be 5 because like I can't really think right now of anything that I dislike about it. So that was a great place to start, and I love her so much. She is my favorite character, like my favorite family member in the set of the sheep. I love her so much. Again, just like the outfits with like the little pom-poms and the headbands. I love her so much. The sheep family is, don't tell the other families, but it's one of my favorite families. Yeah. So I think that this was the perfect place to start, the perfect book selection, because like truly just really, really perfect here. So next, I think we'll move on to the father. And I do have an idea of what I'm gonna read for him, so let me go grab that. Okay, I've gathered the father and my 2 book options. So again, as a refresher, the father, Danny, is in charge of orchards in Calico Village, keeping the grass short and the place tidy. He is very proud of his calico red apples and peachy perfect peaches. After the day's work is done, he likes to relax on the couch with a glass of freshly squeezed fruit juice. So I have 2 options. I have another sapphic option, also from the library, Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin, or A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. Now, both of these are like plant related, as I'm sure you can tell. This one, they're kind of both like horror. So not really sure which one I want to pick. This one, this is a story about desire, dreams, decay, and working retail at the end of the world. So in this, we follow, I'm just going to read you the descriptions of both of these and then we'll decide from there. I feel like I'm leaning towards this just because it follows 2 male main characters, where this one follows 2 female main characters. So I feel like this just, it's also like the green and like his little like green like waistcoat with, and like the red even, like I feel like, come on, I feel like I'm gonna have to pick this one, but I kind of want to pick this because it's from the library, so I want to get to this first. But I do think this is going to be the better pick. But let's read the description of this. After losing her job and her fiance and moving back from the city to live with her parents, Shell Pine needs some help, and according to the sign in the window, the florist shop in the mall does too. Shell gets the gig, and the flowers she works with there are just the things she needs to cheer her up. Or maybe it's Neve, the beautiful shop manager who was making her days so rosy. But you have to get your hands dirty if you want your garden to grow, and Neve's secrets are as dark and dangerous as they come. In the back room of the flower shop, a young sentient orchid actually runs the show, and he is hungry, and he has a plan for them all. When the choices are to either bury yourself in the warmth of someone else's fertile soil or face the cold and disappointing world outside, which would you choose? And what if putting down roots came at a cost far higher than just your freedom? Okay. See, that sounds really good, but I don't know that it's sounds like our man Danny here, you know? I feel like that's not giving him. Let me put him here while we read this next one. Yeah, say hi to Danny. Okay. It is an unusual thing to live in a botanical garden, but Simon and Gregor are an unusual pair of gentlemen. Hidden away from the disapproving tattle of Victorian London, they are free to follow their own interests without interference. For Simon, this means working his taxidermical art. Gregor's business is exotic plants, lucrative but harmless enough. Until his latest acquisition, a strange fungus which shows signs of intellect beyond any plant he's seen, inspires him to attempt a masterwork, true intelligent life from plant matter. Driven by the glory he'll earn from the Royal Horticultural Society for such an achievement, Gregor ignores the flaws in his plan, that intelligence cannot be controlled, that plants cannot be reasoned with, and that the only way his plant beast will flourish is if he uses a recently deceased corpse for the substrate. What do you think, Danny? Because I'm thinking we're going to read this one. Because again, this sounds like really fantastic and like also looks good with Danny, but I just feel like this doesn't fit his vibe as much as this one. I mean, like even just like look at them together. So we will be reading A Botanical Daughter next for the father sheep. So this is what I will be starting probably tonight and then reading into tomorrow. Good morning. So I have read about 50% of A Botanical Daughter and I'm really enjoying it so far. I do feel like the synopsis of the premise really tells you everything you need to know about this, because we follow Gregor, who is the botanist, and he is known for growing literally anything. Like he can grow it, and he has come across this new plant and it seems to be kind of sentient. Like it's in this crate, and every time he opens it, the plant closes the lid back on itself to protect itself. And so he has this theory that it can protect itself, so he takes it out and is able to dry it out, but then give it the ability to water itself, and it does. And so he's I'm on to something here. So we have Gregor, and then we have Simon, and they live together in this greenhouse. And Simon is a taxidermist, and he's very skilled in the mortuary arts. And so a lot of people hire him to make taxidermy pets and different little critters and things. But then he also does dead bodies and things. So they live together in this big greenhouse, and everyone just thinks that they're just two smart bros with this really close friendship, but clearly they're in love, right? This is they're it's set in Victorian 1880s, and I think it's in England, I'm not entirely sure. But being gay and having these queer proclivities is punishable by being jailed. So they make it so that they don't let a lot of people into the greenhouse to see what they're doing for a lot of reasons, because they have just a lot of things going on in here with their Gregor's studies and his plants and things, and he's trying to be the best botanist that he can. And so he doesn't want to let people in, and that draws the allure for what he's growing, because he doesn't just let anyone in to see what he's doing. But at the same time, they know that they have to protect themselves and their relationship, so there's that aspect. But then also they end up bringing in this girl as a housekeeper, because she was doing their laundry, but then her dad is I can't afford to have her around anymore. I don't think I can take care of her. Can you please give her a job and a place to stay? So they take her in, but we find out that her best friend has recently committed suicide, or so it's being touted as a suicide, but she knows that Constance, her friend, would never do that. So she's Jenny, she's living with them. And so we're getting Jenny, Gregor, and Simon's perspectives, which I'm really enjoying. And it's we get each of their perspectives within each chapter. So it's not one chapter is from one perspective and then another chapter from the other, how Late Bloomer was. This is very much within the chapters it like changes voice, but something that clearly this author is incredibly talented, because it'll change who our narrator is without saying like who our narrator is. Like in Late Bloomer, when the chapters switch perspectives, it'll say like chapter 17 Pepper, chapter 18 Opal, where this doesn't do that. But the real characters have such distinct voices that you don't need that, because you can tell who's talking just based on the writing style that goes along with those characters, which I'm really, really enjoying. So that's like the basic premise of what's happening. But as this plant that Gregor has begins to like really show signs of like life, I guess, outside of just like regular plant life, it can like water itself and like do these things, he's like, I can like make something out of this. And so they end up grave robbing to get a body to implant these growths into to create their botanical daughter, because they had both kind of given up on the idea of ever having a child because of the way their relationship is. But this to them is like a fresh start, and so they end up building their daughter. And it's definitely a little creepy, because like she is like up and moving around, right? And like they don't really have full control over her, but at the same time it's just like a very like quiet, like heartwarming story, while also having like this overarching dread, I guess. But also there's a lot of conversations in here about like what makes something alive, what is consciousness, what are like the requirements for something to be alive, does it have to have a soul, what is a soul, and like all these things about like what exactly is it that they're creating, or have they created a life, have they created a life form, like what's the difference, and like what makes something alive, what makes something living. And so like that's been really interesting. And also it's just been so fascinating to see their relationship, because something that this is definitely like there's obviously like romantic aspects of here, because Simon and Gregor like are a couple, but also what you normally don't get in like a romance is because like they're just getting together, these two have like the married couple banter, because they technically like are a married couple and have known each other for so long, like they know each other in and out, and so they know each other's like weird tendencies and like different things that they like to have in their lives. And it's so nice to read this couple that like already know each other so well. Like we're not getting to know them getting to know each other, they already know each other super well, so I'm really enjoying that. But then also like, so we have them as like their like the male relationship, but then there's also two other characters, like side characters, and like, I don't think it's a spoiler, because like as soon as you're introduced to these characters, you know that they're queer as well. So it's just like really enjoyable to see them kind of like having this like found family aspect of both like the daughter they're creating and Jenny, the girl that they bring in. So I'm really having a great time with this. However, we're getting to the point now where I feel like the horror is about to start picking up, because I am about like halfway through, because Chloe, as they named their daughter, is like now up and moving on her own, and like they have to like tie her down at night and like blindfold her, and I'm like, clearly something is not gonna work out here. And they're very much like Jennifer, who like obviously lives in the house with them, she's like, we need to tell people about this, like people deserve to know. And Gregor is like, people will know as soon as I get a chance to like write my paper, and she's like, I'm watching you write this. And so you know that something's gonna go wrong. Like clearly things cannot stay as they are in like their perfect little bubble, but it's like you kind of want them to, but at the same time you know that like something's gonna go wrong. I'm really having a very good time with this. And as for how it fits with our sheep father here, I do feel like this was obviously a better choice of the two books that I was interested in, that I was thinking about picking up. Oh, we can put them right there, because I do feel like it fits better. I mean, like right, but also I just feel like with Gregor and Simon, I feel like the combination of them fits him well. Like it mentions in his little description that he's very proud of the things that he grows, and when the day's done he likes to relax on the couch with a glass of freshly squeezed fruit juice. And while these two characters aren't drinking fruit juice, when the day's done they do like to relax in their little like fancy little chairs with like their port. They drink a lot of port. And so I just feel like, well, obviously it's not like exactly the same, it does feel very like not on the nose, but definitely like in the realm of what's happening here. So I'm glad I picked this one, and I'm having a really great time. This has also been on my shelves for a while, so I'm glad to like finally be getting to it. So I'm hoping to finish this today. I have about like a little over 100 pages left, so I do think that I obviously will be finishing this today, and I'm really enjoying it. It's just I really love the like little family bubble that they have right now. I know that bubble is about to burst, so I feel like it's going to be kind of melancholy, honestly. So excited to keep reading. yet lovely little book. I read the acknowledgements and the about the author, and in the about the author it says, he writes vivid and offbeat stories which sit somewhere between horror, fantasy, and historical, and that is exactly how I would describe this, because it definitely had like elements of horror and elements of fantasy and elements of historical, but I don't know that it has enough of any of those three to put it like fully in one of them. It's definitely like a mixture of the three, and I loved it. Like, I had a really great time with this. I don't know what my rating is going to be. I feel like it's between like a 4 and a 4.5. I don't think it was a 5-star. I don't think it was, but I really had a great time with it. And I feel like, yes, it's about them like creating this like botanical daughter, but it's also about like family and realizing that family comes in so many different forms, and just like being accepting of that, but also recognizing that like, especially when you like have kids, you can't control them, and like they are their own beings, and that they like flourish on their own, and like they take all of the best and worst parts of you and like become their own thing. And that was just like really fantastic, but also it was just like so wonderful, because the horror elements here are that the botanical daughter Chloe, she kind of like consumes a whole bunch of people, and then she like takes in parts of them, but then also like learns like the best and worst of those people as she's like consuming them. And so one of the people that she consumes is this like incredibly homophobic, awful man, and so she realizes like in the end, it's like it was a warning against these types of men. Like, she was a warning against these types of men, and it was just really wonderful. And like, yes, like you could look at it surface level and just be like, oh, they're just like creating this daughter and like they can't control her. Like, yes, and like there's just like so much depth here. And while the two main characters are these gay men, there is such like a wonderful, I don't even want to say it's a subplot because they're definitely more prevalent than that, but our two like sapphic characters in here are so wonderful, and I love them so much, and just like the way their relationship was portrayed was so beautiful. Everything about this was just like very beautiful. I really liked the writing. It was like silly and entertaining, but also like really meaningful. It was just so wonderful. Like I said, while there definitely are some like horror elements of her like absorbing these people and like killing them, it doesn't feel like, it's not scary, you know? Like, I was never like, ooh. It was more just like slow and like meandering and like kind of like plant growth. Like, that's really how this book felt. It felt like I was watching something grow, and I was. And so it was really wonderful. Now, for how it connects to our little lad here, we'll keep him there. I do feel like this was actually like a really good fit, because like especially Gregor, the botanist here, he is like very proud of his creations, and including Chloe, and he like draws everyone in to like celebrate his creations, and he's just like very proud of the things that he creates, and like he wants everyone else to like applaud him for what he's doing, because I mean, like, he did create life here, so like rightfully so, but also he's just like very proud of the things that he creates, and is like a very proud man. But then at the end of the day, he does like to just like sit down with a little drink and like relax. And so I feel like honestly that was like a very good choice here. Definitely, I think, obviously I haven't read Eat the Ones You Love, but I do think this was the right choice here. Also, just like the green fits perfectly. I really do feel like from the books that I have here, like the perfect book I could have read for him, because that's like a very generic description, but somehow fits so perfectly with this. And so yeah, I do think it's gonna be like a 4.5. I really like this. And it being set in like Victorian, it is England, because they were going to London and like could travel like by horse, so it wasn't that far. And so like it being set there, it wasn't like a queer normative society, so like they were technically seen as outcasts for being these queer men. And I think I personally found it funny when they'd be like, those queer men living there together, because like people would like, especially back in Victorian times, they would use that word to describe like weird people that they didn't quite understand, but like they are queer. Yeah, they were in love. And there were also a lot of other like queer characters in here. Like pretty much everyone you encountered through this book was queer in some way, whether like they knew it or not, especially because like, they don't really have like the language for that, but like it was so wonderful. But then also there was this conversation that Gregor had with like his rival guy, who they also kind of used to be lovers, and he was talking about how Gregor is so privileged because he has all of this money and the privilege to like hide away in this Grimfern like greenhouse with his lover and just like live out their best life there. But like they were like, what about the common homosexual? Which like funny, yes, in like the phrase, but also like, yeah, because he had the privilege and the wealth to be able to like carry out the life that he wanted to live, where pretty much everyone else who didn't have that, which is most people at the time especially, were just like having to marry and carry on with a family in a way that they didn't really want to. And that's what that character had to do in order to like protect his life and the things that he had wanted for himself. He had to do things that he didn't want to do in order to achieve those things. And so like they were kind of butting heads in that way, but I really liked that we like drew attention to that, because yeah, these two characters, Gregor and Simon, were incredibly privileged. So I really enjoyed this. This was a really, really great novel, and it like touched on a lot of really important topics, but also was like silly and fun, but also like really heartwarming. And like I said, it really did feel like growing, like growth is how I would describe this. So like I had a really great time with this, and again, great choice for our little father here. So next we will move on to the sister. Okay, now we're over by the bookshelf so I can get the books, but our sister is named Lona. She is very serious and a little shy, but she's not shy around her baby brother and sisters. She takes very good care of them. She reads them lots of picture books, draws pictures for them, and helps them when it's nap time. So that clearly doesn't give us a lot to work on, and really just like boils her down to like only being in service of her siblings, which, you know, I don't love. But because that's all we have to work with, I am going to choose a book that centers around a sister or like siblings. So I have two things off the top of my head that I think are good options, so let me grab them. So my two options are House of Roots and Ruin by Erin A. Craig and Threads That Bind by Kika Hatzupabalo. I'm gonna have to look up how to pronounce this author's last name, but if I choose this one, I will do that. And whenever I read this one, I will do that. So House of Roots and Ruin is like the interconnected kind of sequel to House of Salt and Sorrows that I read and really loved. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. The only downside of this is its size. Oh, but it has really pretty end papers. Oh, okay. So let's see, this is like over 500 pages, but this is about like a whole family of like, there were like 13 sisters, and they all like very much care for each other. So I feel like that's a good option. And then with that, House of Roots and Ruin, you can even see like there's a lot of plants on here. So despite dreams of adventure far beyond the Salon shores, 18-year-old Verity Tomas has remained at her family's estate Highmore with her older sister Camille, while the rest of their family has scattered across Arcania. When Verity receives word that the Duchess of Blome, wife of a celebrated botanist, is interested in having Verity paint a portrait of her son Alexander, Verity jumps at the chance, but Camille won't allow it. Forced to reveal the secret she's kept for years, Camille tells Verity the truth one day. Haunted by tragic childhood events, Verity is still seeing ghosts. She just doesn't know it. Stunned, Verity flees Highmore that night, and with nowhere else to turn, makes her way to Blome. At first, she is captivated by the lush verdant landscape, and is quickly drawn to the charming, witty, and impossibly handsome Alexander Laurent. To her surprise, a romance blossoms, but it's not long before Verity is plagued with nightmares, and the darker side of Blome begins to show through its sickly sweet facade. A modern masterpiece about doomed-loved, menacing ambition and the ghosts that haunt us forever. A Sisters of the Salt novel. So I feel like this is a really great option for like the sisterhood, like sibling dynamic aspect, but then also like the plant life of it all. And then my other option is Threads That Bind. And this, descendants of the Fates are always born in threes. One to weave, one to draw, and one to cut the threads that connect people to the things they love and to life itself. The Aura sisters are no exception. Io, the youngest, uses her fate-born abilities as a private investigator in the half-sunken city of Alante. But her latest job leads her to a horrific discovery. Somebody is abducting women, maiming their life threads, and setting their resulting wraiths loose in the city to kill. To find the culprit, she must work alongside Edie Runa, the right hand of the infamous Mob Queen, and the boy with whom she shares a rare fate thread linking them as soulmates before they're even met. The investigation turns personal when Io's estranged oldest sister shows up on the arm of her best suspect. Amid unveiled secrets from her past and her growing feelings for Edie, maybe? Io must follow clues through the city's darkest corners and unearth a conspiracy that involves some of the city's most powerful players before destruction comes to her own doorstep. So again, I think this is a really good option. I do, however, think that this is the better option just with the like sisterhood and like the plant aspect of it all. However, again, two concerns with this one actually. Its size, and also because it is the like technically a sequel to House of Salt and Sorrows, and I don't really remember everything that happened there. I'm worried about not fully comprehending what's going on here. So I think I'm gonna start with this one, and if I feel like I need to reread House of Salt and Sorrows to really get this one, then we'll switch over to Threads That Bind. But this is where I'm gonna start because I do feel like this one really captures the essence more. And that means that this is our queen for the foreseeable future. I don't think that the color, you know, because the words have like a pinkish tint, so I do think actually we have something to go off here. So this is what I will be reading next.
not read a book that has like kept me up past my bedtime in a very long time, and this is doing it for me. Oh my god, I am loving this so much. I am on page 343 already because I have just been devouring this. It reminds me of Belladonna in a way. Like, this is what I wanted Belladonna to be, because we follow Verity, and I will say I feel no need to go back and reread House of Salt and Sorrows. Like, I kind of want to because I love being back in this world, but there's like absolutely no need because it kind of like picks up, I feel like, several years after where that one ended. So it's like in the same world, but not at all like dealing with the same plot or anything. So we follow Verity, and she's like living with her sister. So I do feel like it was a good, so far, I feel like it's been a good pick for her because we are seeing her as like in like the sisterly role, because she's originally living with her oldest sister and she's just kind of like living there, not really doing anything, just feeling like she wants to get out and like live her own life and explore. But that sister is like, no, like you need to stay here. And come to find out it's because she can see ghosts, and the older sister does not want her to like go out in the world and like make a scene because she's like talking to people who aren't really there, which like fair enough. But she ends up getting this opportunity to go to Bloem, which is like another little area that like focuses on plants. Good pick for that as well, because they have, it's like a man and his wife and then their son who's going to become the Duke of Bloem. I like saying it like that, Bloem. It's B-L-O-E-M. And they want Verity, she's a painter, they want her to come in and paint his like dukely portrait, I guess. And she's like chomping at the bit for this because she'll be able to get out of her like ancestral home and like see new parts of the world and like experience new things. And so she ends up like sneaking out and going there. And once she gets there, she didn't know she could see ghosts until her sister told her, and she was like, this is why I want you to stay here. But she was like, you're pulling my leg. Come to find out, no, she can in fact see ghosts. So she goes to this Bloem place and she is painting the portrait for Alex, the soon-to-be Duke, and she's falling for him, and like he's a great guy, but like things in this manor house just like aren't really as they seem. Like there's a lot of like secret passages. Gerard, Alex's father, is like up to some spooky things, quite possibly some like weird freak sex things. He apparently like has a lot of mistresses, and so it's just like a very tense situation that she's found herself in, and like things are escalating quickly, as I'm sure you can imagine based on the fact that I've read over 300 pages in like one sitting because I just could not put it down. It is so good. And when I said it's like what I wanted from Belladonna, because that I wanted her to be like dealing with the death things, which I don't even really know how to explain it because I'm not sure what I wanted from Belladonna, but this is so good because it's like she's seeing the ghosts, but most of the time she can't tell if they're ghosts because they show up to her like as like looking like real people. So she's really struggling with like being able to figure out who's a ghost and who isn't, but then also like not wanting to like make it known that she can see ghosts because that'll like put her future and like the future of all of her sisters in jeopardy. So she's just like very hesitant, but also like she's like feeling feelings towards Alex, but like things seem to be moving like really fast from his end. Like he already like proposed and like his mom was like putting together the marriage and like the whole like wedding and everything, and she's like, I like think I love him, but like I'm not entirely sure what love feels like because she had never like held hands with anyone before coming here, and now all of a sudden she's expected to be married. So she's dealing with a lot of things on that front, but I'm absolutely loving it. And I think it's really wonderful because throughout we're getting like letters that she's writing to her sisters. So like the sibling aspect very much present, but also Gerard, the father, is a botanist. So we're getting like the plants and things, and like the language of flowers is in here as well. And it's something that I absolutely love. And Alex is using different bouquets that he makes to send to Verity to like give her different like messages, mostly just like, I love you, I can't wait to spend our life together. But then like Verity, because she's lived on Ceylon, I believe is the name of her island, she's from her people are the people of the salt, and then Alex's people are the people of the petals, which I just think is so fun. And so she doesn't know like that, the language of flowers, so she has like these books where she's like looking up and like giggling and being like, tee, he likes me. And so I'm just really enjoying it, but it also has this like sinister undertone, and we just discovered some of the more sinister things, and like, oh my god, it kept me gripped. There was like one reveal and I was like, oh okay, next chapter another like huge reveal, and I was like, oh, I did not see this coming. Now there's some things where I'm like, girl, like she's blaming one person for everything that's happening, and I'm like, no, it's so obviously the other person, but because she has a deeper connection with that person, she like can't quite see us, because like this is her first time being away from home, so like she doesn't really know what's going on. I'm just eating this up. It is so good. I'm listening to the audiobook and the narrator is fantastic. Really, really loving this. Also, when I picked it up, I think I showed you these end papers. Stunning. But then Yeah, Chantilly. That's the name of the home that they're at, where Verity's home is Highmore Manor. There's a Chantilly, and the peacocks on here are like a big part of the story. Like, it is just, I pre-ordered this. This is the first edition that's like this, but I'm absolutely loving it. Now, there was a funny part where this isn't a spoiler, the first ghost that she encounters has a name of an author who I think is like a friend of this author, because the ghost name is Hannah Winton and they use like the full first and last name, and I was like, why does that name feel so familiar? And I went to the front, it's blurbed by Hannah Winton, spelled exactly the same. So I wonder if she's going to be in the like acknowledgements, like, thanks Hannah girl, got your name in the book, because it was just so silly. And every time it comes up, it does kind of take me out of the story a little bit, because I'm like, girl, but it's really fun and I quite like it. So I'm having a wonderful time with this. This was definitely the right choice, because we have like the sibling aspect of it, and like specifically they're all sisters, but she's also, Verity is like very close because she lived with her older sister. She's very close with her like nieces and nephews who see her as like an older sister, so she has like a sibling relationship with them as well. So it was a great pick for that, but also because it has like the botany and like the floral aspects, great pick for this family as a whole, because they're all like living on this like orchard. So I'm really enjoying this, but it is significantly past my bedtime, so I'm gonna go to sleep. I had to like pry myself away because I just wanted to keep going. Erin A. Craig's writing is so wonderful. This is my third book that I've read from her, and I think the third book that she's published, and I will continue to read everything that she writes because this is so good. Her writing is just so devourable. I'm not even sure if that's a real word, but like, it's just so easy to consume, and it's like not like, I don't even know how to describe it, but like everything is just described so vividly, and it's just like so atmospheric, and there's just like, well, nothing, even if it's just like in a chapter where she's just like having a great time with Alex, there's just these like tendrils of dread reaching through like every aspect of this, and so you feel it, and like she's having like a good time, but you're kind of like, ugh, I know like something is like creeping around the next chapter, you know? So it's just, her writing is so amazing, and I'm so glad I picked this up. I'm really loving this. So I am gonna go to bed, even though I really just want to keep reading. Like, I could finish it right now. I really could. I'm having so much fun with it, absolutely loving it, but I do need to go to bed. So I am gonna go to sleep, and then I will talk to you again when I finish it, because I'm having such a great time. I cannot see this being anything less than a 4.5 star, which would mean for so far all 3 books I've read will not be less than a 4 star, which is crazy, but I'm having such a good time with this. Genuinely, like, to me right now, that's a 5-star book. However, we'll have to see how things wrap up. I still have, it's like a 530 page book, so I still have like 200 pages left, but I don't imagine that it'll take me very long to get through, and I can't imagine that anything too crazy will happen that'll make me not like it, but I'm really loving it right now. Like, I'm sure you can tell I'm having a great time. So me and Lona and the whole rest of the family, we're going to sleep. Well, that was something. I have officially finished House of Roots and Ruin. Let's gather our little queen here. Where do we want to put her? I'll do here. Oh, that's cute. We'll put it there. Okay. This like series of like the Sisters of the Salts, it's House of Salt and Sorrow and then House of Roots and Ruin, very interesting, because it's like we have gods and then like demigods, and they like live among the humans pretty much, and so like there's kind of like a magical element in here, but also then like a lot of like the actual plot revolves around just like people being awful. It's very fascinating because it's like this could have taken like a very magical, mystical turn, and instead they were just like beating each other. So like very interesting the way that Erin A. Craig goes about like writing her conflicts, but I really like it because like it could have gotten like crazy, and it didn't. It stayed very grounded, which I really enjoyed. This is really, all of my thoughts from last night ring true still to today. I really enjoyed this. I don't think it's a 5-star just because I feel like, especially with that ending, I feel like what are we doing after here? But I have a lot of questions. But I really enjoyed it. Erin A. Craig's writing is just so wonderful, and so like everything she writes is going to be beautiful, and this was just so interesting. Also, all of her books are quite long, but none of them really feel like, I read this 2 sittings. It's crazy. Like, she writes so much, but it doesn't feel like you fly through it. At least I do. And so I really enjoyed this, especially because it's like the sisterly aspect really like came in clutch in the end there. I really enjoyed it. Perfect choice for queen here. I do stand by this choice, but also just this book on its own, wonderful. It's been on my shelf for a long time because I thought that I'd have to reread House of Salt and Sorrows, and I do think it would have made certain things feel a little bit more like, it would have given certain things more depth, but you like, definitely didn't have to. Like, I understood it perfectly fine on its own, and I really liked it, and I hope we continue to get more novels with these sisters because I love them and I love her writing, and this was just so good. But also, like, the way it ended was a little, I don't want to say underwhelming, but it's like we built up this huge like plot of like this evil man doing these evil things just for it to end the way it did. Like, there were definitely some twists, and I was like, throughout a lot of it, like, I'm pretty sure you saw my facial expressions, but the way it ended, I was just a little like, oh, okay. Not necessarily disappointment, but like, her stories are kind of like quiet in that way, where it's like, yes, there's a lot happening, but also the heart of her stories is very much just like love and like warmth and like familial love, while also romantic love. They're very lovely. I think lovely is a good word to describe them. But also, it ended very cutesy. 2 cliffhangers though, kind of. 1 for sure, like 1.5 cliffhangers. I really like this. I do think it's gonna be like a 4.5 star. I'll have to like think on it. I also want to see like what's coming after this, what else she's written in this world, because with where that ended, yeah, very, very confused. Not confused, but like very intrigued. So we'll have to see on that. But I really enjoyed that. That was like a really fun read, and I again read it in 2 sittings, so clearly I had a great time, and it's 530 pages, so that's really saying something. But yeah, Erin A. Craig's writing is just always going to do it for me, so this was a wonderful time. Verity as a main character was so fun because she has a lot of agency as a character, but it's also not like everyone was relying on her to like save the day, you know? Like, she knew that she couldn't stop what was happening on her own, and she relied on other people for help. And I did really enjoy that, because I find like a lot of times main characters, especially when they have like something special about them, they tend to think that like they can do it all on their own, and that's not how any of Erin A. Craig's characters are. They know that they can't do it all on their own, and while like they believe in themselves and like have agency, they know that they have to like rely on their community, again with like the sisterly things happening. Really loved it. So it is late again. I'm going to ruminate on my thoughts on this one to give like a final star rating, and then tomorrow we will be picking and then starting our book for our final member of the family, the brother. Hello. You're getting a new angle. Oh my god, you can see more of my trinkets. How cute. But you're propped up on my bookshelf because we are going to be picking the book for our little brother, Winton. Now, he has been the hardest for me to figure out what I'm going to read because his little description does not give us very much. It simply says that he is shy but likes to dance, specifically ballet, but really only dances for his sister. Not giving us much to go off of. So I think I mentioned in like the very first clip of this vlog that I had done some looking into like books about like male dancers, specifically male ballet dancers, and everything I was finding was like nonfiction, which totally fine, but that's just not something that I'm interested in reading, especially in this current moment. Just, I have no desire for that right now. Or I was finding a few like erotic romances, which all good and fine. I don't want to read that, and also because I'm reading it for like this fictional child, that just feels a little weird. Like I don't want to. So then that led me to contemporary romance about male ballet dancers, and I could only find very few, mostly written by women, which you know. And the one that I could find that I was like, okay, maybe I'll go with this. It had a very cutie cover, like one of those like cartoony covers, but then I was reading the like synopsis of the book, and it was like the guy, I don't even remember their names, but like he had like left his hometown to pursue his dancing career because they were like, his town was like incredibly homophobic and like he just couldn't thrive there. But now he has a successful career as a ballet dancer, so he comes back to his hometown for some reason, and there's like a guy there that like was his bully back then but is also like closeted, and now he's like trying to convince him that it's okay to be gay, but like the whole plot of the book pretty much was just homophobia, and I had no desire for that. And also it didn't seem like ballet was like a big part of the book, so then therefore dancing wasn't a big part of the book. So I then took to my bookshelves to try and figure something out. Where can I put him? I can't put him anywhere that you'll see him. But I'm looking at my shelves. I don't even like own a lot of books about like male main characters, mainly because that's just not something that I have much interest in reading. I would really want to read from like the female perspective, from like female authors. So I did read one book by a male author in this vlog, which is like shocking for me, honestly, because I don't tend to pick them up, because I don't tend to really have a whole lot of interest in reading men written by men, specifically then women written by men. I don't really enjoy that. So then I took to my shelves and I was like, I don't own a whole lot of books written by men, like I just said,
And I, further than that, don't own a whole lot of books about dance. However, I have one, and I think that's gonna be what we go with because I do think it will actually fit. So let me grab it. That book is Dancers of the Dawn. I don't know how to pronounce this author's name, but I'm gonna listen to the audiobook and they'll say it in there so that I can figure it out because I don't even know. Zulerha A. Afzal? That's my current guess. But this cover is stunning. And this follows a troupe of dancers who dance to like channel their magic. And so I feel like it's not like the closest thing I could find, but also in just like doing like a Google search, like books about male dancers, it was a lot of just like erotic romance, which yeah, no. But also his bow tie is like this bright orange color and it's like the shiny material. And I feel like, right, my dog's playing in the chair. You'll have to excuse him. But I really think that this is a very actually good option for Winton here, but also just like sounds really interesting. It says, deep in the desert under the blazing sun, an elite troupe of dancers are trained to harness their magic. They are the queen's most formidable assassins. Asira, ? Has one of the rarest talents, for she is a flame wielder. Feared by all and envied by some, she uses her power to execute enemies of the crown. Asira's greatest wish is to serve her queen, but on the eve of her graduation, with tensions rising among the dancers and secrets stirring in the shifting sand dunes, she begins to question whether she was truly born to kill. The first in a sumptuous slow burn romantasy duology from a stunning new voice. And so I feel like, while again, it's not like a perfect fit, I do think there are some things here that are really quite good. Because like we have the dancing and how she uses the dancing to like channel her magic. Super cool. The cover matches his bow tie, which I do really like. Beautiful cover. Also, this just sounds like something I'm really gonna love. So this is what I'm going to be reading. I do think that there's probably something out there that fits a little bit better. And if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them because I am actually genuinely interested in like reading about a male ballet dancer or just like a male dancer outside of like an erotic romance perspective, you know? So if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them, but this is what I will be reading. So I have the audiobook checked out from Hoopla and I'm really excited to listen to that. But for some reason, I always feel the need to like justify why I'm listening to the audiobook. And it's like, I don't have to do that. I enjoy it, so I'm gonna do it. But this especially, I love listening to audiobooks when it is a book like with a culture that I'm not familiar with, because then it enables me to better pronounce the names like actually with accuracy and not just how my little white brain thinks that they should be pronounced, you know? So I really love doing that, especially with this author, because it's like I want to pronounce her name correctly. So I think the audio, I tried to find a pronunciation online and I couldn't, so the audiobook is how I'm going to do that. But then also just like for the character names and the place names and everything, audiobook will come in clutch. So really looking forward to starting this tonight. Hey, last night I started reading Dancers of the Dawn by Zulerha A. Afzal, I think is how that's pronounced. That's, I think, the best I'm going to be able to do. But also, part of my confusion with the name before is that this font made the K look like an R, and so that's where I was having a lot of problems. But it's a K, so Zulerha A. Afzal is what I'm going with. And I am on page 100 exactly. I'm having a great time. This follows our main character, Asira, and she is a dancer of the dawn. And that means that she is one of a group of like elite girls, I'm pretty sure they're all girls, who has magic and then dances to channel that magic, which is like a super cool and unique magic system. So it's like, there's times, yes, where they can use their magic without dancing, but dancing helps them to like focus their energy and like channel the magic in a more precise way, which is like really super interesting. And all of the girls have a different kind of magic. So our main character Asira has fire magic, which is like a form of elemental magic, which is quite rare. But what I like about her as the main character is that her having this like rare magic is not what makes her like special in this world. She's special because her mom was also in like a very similar position as she was as like a dancer and then going into like the Queen's Guard. However, her mom was then a traitor. And so people have like are keeping like watch over her to make sure that she does not end up turning on their crown, I guess. So she's feeling a lot of pressure to perform very well and like keep everything in check, like her emotions, her powers, everything, and just be like super perfect, I guess. And so we're following her as she is preparing to like take her next step out of like this like academy that they're in, and then their next step will be to like be getting placed in like the military because they're having like a territory conflict with like their neighboring
state, country. I'm not fully sure on that, but the reason this conflict is starting up again is because of her mom's traitorous ex. And so clearly there's a lot of pressure on her, and she has like one friend who's like a sister to her in this academy, but things aren't as they seem with that girl. And so it's very interesting, and like all of these girls have different magics, and so it's really cool to see them work, especially how they work together. There's musicians who play the music that the dancers then dance to, and so like they can kind of channel magic through their music, which kind of like puts everyone in a trance with the help of one of the other girls who has like nightmare magic and can like put everyone to sleep so they're all like seeing their nightmares. And then there's another girl who has like these, like she can make like snakes out of the sand. In the back here, which I think is actually super cool, there is a full like cast of characters. Like every single character who's mentioned is listed in here. So that character with the snakes is like she's called a serpent whisperer. How cool. So she can like call forth these like snakes that, from what I understood, are like made of sand, which is really cool, and then like that holds people in place. And then Sahi, our main character's like best friend, is a truth seeker. So she like goes into people's minds and like gets them to reveal their truth. How cool. But then our main character Asira, she's like the executioner of the group. So then with her like flame wielding magic, she kills their targets. And so it's really cool to see them like using their magic all like together like that, but then also like they're performing dances like as like a troupe in order to use their magic. So it's really fascinating of a magic system, but also they're being taught how to like defend themselves without their magic, because I guess there are possibly people who have like silencing magic that like cut out everybody else's magic. So they're learning how to defend themselves like with hand-to-hand combat and like with weapons. So we're also seeing that, and it's really fascinating like world building here. This book is like really short. I don't think that it's even really like 300 pages, but I'm loving it. It's also supposedly a duology, but it also says slow burn romantasy, and I'm 100 pages in and I don't even know who would be like a love interest here. Like there's one character who's like the leader of the guard that I can like maybe see, but also he seems like he's significantly older than Asira, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But like the slow burn for sure, because at this point 100 pages in I don't even know who the love interest would be, but I'm eating this up. And I am pleased to say that I do feel like it was a relatively good choice for the brother. Obviously, I think that there were things that probably would have been a better choice. And if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear what they are in the comments. But how our little Winton here, is kind of like shy and reserved and only dances for his sister because he's like nervous about it. That's kind of how Asira is too, because she's quite like reserved, because she doesn't want to do anything that would make people suspect her more than they already do, because she's not a traitor. And so she is really just like trying to keep to herself. And how Winton only really dances for his sister, she only really like, obviously she's like in this dance troupe, so she dances with a lot of people, but like she only really opens up to Sahi, who is like her sister in this world. So I do feel like there's actually quite a few connections. So good choice. I'm really enjoying this, and I've had it on my shelf for quite a while, so I'm excited to finally be getting to it. And yeah, like I said, I'm just loving the world building, and the writing is very good. Like I say that like I'm surprised, but I find a lot of times that debut authors, sometimes it takes them like a book or two to like really get their footing and like find their voice. But this, I'm really enjoying it. It's like quite simple in like the writing style, but I'm really loving it. And the actual plot and world building is super fascinating. So really having a great time. I will say though, it was like hot and sunny today. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna read outside and like immerse myself in the story, because it takes place like in a desert. And I was like, oh, so it'll be perfect with like the heat and the sun, and then like reading it outside, perfect. And then it got like windy, rainy, gross. So I'm now under a blanket. So welcome to summer in Ohio. But yeah, so I am just gonna keep reading, and I'm having a really very wonderful time with this. However, I will say I know that I'm gonna be upset when it ends, because it's already confirmed to be a duology and there's no release date for the second one. There's not even a title. So that's a little bit upsetting, but that's usually what happens when you read books that you know are in a series that do not have any confirmed follow-up information. So I'm just gonna keep reading. I'm having a really wonderful time, and it's like one of those things where it's like I'm loving it and I want to know what's gonna happen, especially with her mom, because we're getting like some flashbacks, but also like we're meeting characters who like have more insight on her mom. And so I'm wondering, like, was she actually a traitor, or like was she just seen as a traitor because the information that she shared was truthful, but like they didn't want it to be shared? That's where I'm thinking this is going. However, it's just like I want to know what's going on, and I want to finish it to like gather the story, but I also don't want to finish it, because then when it's over, and two, I have nowhere to go after here, you know, because the sequel's not out. So I'm just having a really wonderful time with this, so I'm just gonna keep reading. let's pull you a little closer. What a wonderful book. Oh my god, I loved it so much. This was so good. And remember how I was saying that I didn't know who the love interest would be? I see where book 2 is gonna go, and I can't wait. The reveals, the twists, the drama of it all. Pick this one up. This is really good. Wow, okay. I feel like I need 3 to 5 business days to process everything that I just read. So I'm gonna process, and then I'll come back and give you my final thoughts on this and wrap everything else up too.
Okay, I have now finished all 4 of the books for all 4 of the Calico Critter family members. I apologize for the lighting. It has gotten really like gloomy and stormy, which is actually quite fitting for how this ended. So I am giving this a 4.5. Yes, that is correct. So now that we have finished, this was truly such an amazing book and such like a hidden gem. I think it has like less than 300 reviews, less than 300 ratings even on Goodreads, which is like crazy low, especially for like how good of a book this is. I think that part of my enjoyment of this is also because it was labeled and then promoted as romantasy. I have a stigmatized notion of romantasy that I know I need to kick, and I do have a plan on how to do that, that romantasy books aren't well written and are quite formulaic and are all very similar. And this was not at all that. The magic system was so unique, especially like being channeled through dancing. And I think it's also super interesting because it's like the dancers recognize that like they cannot dance in the face of battle. So they have like different like dance-esque movements that they can partake in like battle, so that they can still like have like the dance to channel their magic. And it's just so cool. And the way that everyone's magic like kind of works differently and like has a different color, it's so cool. And I'm really looking forward to the sequel because it is a confirmed duology, and I'm really very curious to see how we wrap it up and like where we go from here. And also it was pitched, like even in here it says the first in a sumptuous slow burn romantasy duology. And I told you when I first started reading it, I have no clue who the romantic interest is going to be, and I'm loving where it's going with that because it truly is a slow burn. Like by the end of this, they're like just starting to form a friendship. So I am a little worried for how that's going to play out in the second book because this was quite short. So unless the next book is like twice as long as this, I fear that the romance aspect will be kind of like sped up and rushed, which I'm not loving that concept, but who knows? This surprised me. The sequel will probably also surprise me, so I'm really looking forward to eventually picking up the sequel. That being said, we have now finished all 4 of the books for this vlog, so I'm going to go through each book, which character I read it for, and my rating, and some other little things that I want to share about them. So the first book that we read was Late Bloomer, and we read this for our mother sheep, Barbara, and this was such a perfect choice for this. I mean, first of all, the pink flowers on the book, the pink flowers on her dress, it was just such a wonderful choice here. And while, like I mentioned earlier in the vlog, most of these books aren't like a one-to-one, like this is exactly what her description said. Obviously that's not going to happen. Like these little character descriptions weren't written for the purpose of then having a book, right? But I do feel like this was a really good choice because all of these characters in the family have like very specific descriptions, and Pepper in here is like very specific about her flowers, and so I do feel like this was a perfect choice. And I absolutely loved this book. I ended up rating it 4.5 out of 5 stars, which is really high for me, especially for a romance, but I absolutely loved this. And while I probably would have picked this one up eventually just because I love a sapphic romance, like look at this was like really a perfect choice here, and I absolutely loved reading this, especially for this character because I feel like it fits so well. So really happy with this choice. I do feel like a lot of the aspects that were mentioned in her description, really do feel like this book had a lot of these elements where like Pepper's full focus was on her flowers, where our mother character's full focus was on her orchids. So I do feel like this was a really great choice. Next, for our father character, Danny, I ended up reading A Botanical Daughter, and this I do feel like really fit because it's all about like parenthood and fatherhood and like creating a child, as this would suggest. And while it was about that, and like Danny is a father, so that did really fit here, it also, like Gregor, one of our main characters, is a botanist, so it really fit with like the whole greenery foliage aspect. And on top of that, there were just a lot of conversations in here that I really loved about like what it means to be alive and like what counts as consciousness, that I feel like were really wonderful. And other than tending to his orchards, the only other thing that Danny's little description mentioned was that he liked to relax at the end of the day with his beverage, and Gregor and Simon also like to relax at the end of the day with port instead of like fruit juice here, but I feel like this really fit. And even like his little outfit, like while it matches the cover really well, this takes place in like a Victorian setting, and so I feel like because their outfits are quite like old-timey, I guess, his little like neck thing that I'm considering a cravat here, I feel like just really fit, and it was just so wonderful, and also just had like a very summery nature. And again, in here we had characters who were like fully focused and single-minded on like their plant life creations, and so again I feel like this really fits with the father character. After that we moved into the children and we read House of Roots and Ruin for the daughter, and this again, perfect choice, because the Sisters of the Salt like series, I guess, that we're having here is all about these sisters. And so in this one we followed Verity, and I just really feel like this fits so well, because even while we had like the sisterhood aspect, which was very strong and I really enjoyed it and fit especially well for this character because all her little description mentions is being a sister, we had like the sisterly aspects and how like the love of sisterhood prevails above all, which was really wonderful. We also still had like the foliage and the botany of it, because the father of Bloom, where she ends up going, is a botanist. Is he a freak? Yes. Is he still a botanist? Yes. And it also still has to do with like creating children, similar to a botanical daughter. So again, I really feel like this one was a perfect choice for this. And not something that you would think, because this definitely is like, same with botanical daughter, is like darker and grittier, but like it still has like those aspects of like parenthood in the case of botanical daughter and like fatherhood, but then in here like sisterhood. And so it was just a really wonderful choice that I don't think you would necessarily pair together, but because I had it on my shelf, it ended up working really well. And again, with the cover, you have like the brown and like the green and the brown and the pink, and that's like exactly her coloring, is that she has like the brown belt with the pink bow, and there's like little green bits in her skirt, which again fits perfectly. And then finally, for our brother character, we read Dancers of the Dawn, and this one has like the least good connection, I feel like, and the least good cover fit too, but he does have this like shiny orange metallic-y bow tie with this shiny orange gold metallic-y cover, so I feel like right, I feel like we did the best we could, because I had the hardest time picking a book for him because it just talked about how he's shy but likes to dance, specifically ballet, but only likes to do it for his sister. And so I really had a hard time finding a book about like male ballet dancers that I was actually interested in reading. So I ended up finding this on my shelf, and it's all about dancers. Now, female dancers, yes, but I still feel like it fit here because my main character, Asira, spends like all of her life just being kind of like shy and reserved because she doesn't want to come across as a traitor, which obviously is not the same here, but he is a shy character. Like it mentions in his little description that he's shy, so I do feel like it fit. And then also just like the dance magic in here was so wonderful, and like the whole magic system is built upon dance. So, you know, I feel like based on what I have on my shelves, this was the perfect choice for this. Now, if you have a suggestion of something that would be better suited for this character, I would love to hear it, because I know that this probably isn't the best choice, but again, I really struggled to find something for him that I was actually interested in reading. So I would love to hear if you have any suggestions, but this was again a 4.5. So I really love this, and like you heard me say, I'm really looking forward to reading the sequels. So overall, we had a really great reading experience. We had nothing lower than a 4-star here. I loved everything that I read and had like something to take away and something to connect to the critters for each book. And so this was like really fun. It was also fun because it added a layer of depth to my reading, because instead of just reading to like read the book, I was reading to like pick out parts that I felt like connected to the critters. And so I feel like I just had a lot of fun reading this because it made me read on like a deeper level, because I was like, okay, what aspects of like these characters fit to like these critters, you know? And so I had a lot of fun with that as well. So I would definitely be doing more of these in the future. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 more families, and then I have just like other critters that aren't in families that I would also love to do. So you let me know which family you'd like to see me do next. I have the latte cats, I think they are. They're like a brown cat with like darker brown stripes. And then you can see two of the other families. I have the high branch giraffe family and the midnight cat family. So if there's a family that you'd like to see me do next, let me know, because I'll do that one, because I'm gonna do all my families because this was so much fun. But if there's one you want me to go to next, let me know. But this was so much fun. I genuinely had so much fun doing this, and I will definitely keep doing it. And it also just like brought me closer to my little critters, because normally they just like sit on my shelves because it's like I don't like play with them like how they're intended to be played with, you know? But this was a fun way for me to like engage with my trinkets more. So I had a lot of fun with this, and I will definitely be doing more, like I said. So that brings us to the end of this vlog. I, again, had such a wonderful time. Like, genuinely, this brought me so much joy because it combined, like, 2 of my favorite things, reading and, like, collecting, and then specifically reading and Calico Critters. So I had a wonderful time. If there's any books that you would have read in place of what I read for these critters, I would love to know, specifically for the little brother here. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Hopefully, you will like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Bye!